All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Charles Nyabeze, and I'm the Vice President, Business Development and Commercialization with SEMI and also with the MICA network. I'm joined today by Amanda Truscott and also my colleague, Lenissa Moodley, and we're both going to be asking questions of Amanda a little bit later on. Amanda is going to be presenting to us on her approved MICA project on the equipment doctor. I know the title here is Prescriptive Maintenance for Mobile Mining Equipment. We were going to call it the equipment doctor for this presentation. Before we jump into Amanda's presentation, I want to let you know that we are actually doing 16 webinars in total. Today we're doing the 14th webinar, and all the people that were approved for MICA projects will be presenting their technologies to give everybody an understanding as to where they're going with their tech. Also, I want to invite everybody who is interested in submitting a proposal to our currently open corporate proposals to just take a picture of this QR code with your phone, and your phone should allow you to go to the hyperlink so you can get more information on the process we have for the intakes. Now, it gives me great pleasure to invite Amanda to do a presentation on the equipment doctor. Amanda, I'm going to hand it over to you now. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Charles. I'm just going to share my screen here. Okay, you should be able to see that. Is that showing up?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So as Charles was saying, my name is Amanda Truscott, and I'm the CEO at Rhythmic Solutions. Today, I'm going to talk about how, with the help of the MICA network, we are taking our AI-enabled asset health solution to the next level. So it's not going to be news to a lot of you that mobile mining equipment fails often, unpredictably, and catastrophically, with big consequences for the environment and for the bottom line of mining companies. You've got chronic inefficiencies causing millions of liters of fuel to be wasted every year at any given mine. And every one of the top 40 mining companies is actually spending billions more than they should be on maintenance because so much of it is unplanned. So here's a typical scenario. The oil pump fails in a haul truck. If you notice that and you fix it early enough, that will often cost around $30,000 in combined maintenance and downtime. But all too often, you're not going to catch that. And then you could very well end up with a failed engine. And that, in that case, you're losing more like $2 million, most of that from lost production, and it's just for that one incident. So the financial and the environmental impacts of situations like that are why we at Rhythmic are delivering the world's most advanced and reliable predictive analytics for mobile mining equipment optimization. So mobile mining equipment is particularly challenging because of the extreme variability of the conditions it's subjected to. You're dealing with constantly changing topographies, extreme high and low temperatures, as well as different operators and loading cycles. And all of that variability makes it much harder than fixed assets when it comes to building scalable analytic solutions that actually work. And off-the-shelf AI libraries tend to just produce too many false positives to be all that useful a lot of the time. So a lot of mines deal with that by building their own error thresholds, and these can be difficult to maintain. As a result, they tend to degrade in accuracy over time, and they can also never fully account for all of the complexity in this data. So what we've done at Rhythmic is found a way to deal with all of that. And this dashboard here is just one example of how that can look. In this case, we are providing an overall view of the health of a fleet and quickly drawing attention to where the real problems are. And then from here, a person can drill down to see what are the failure mode signatures that could be causing any alarms that happen to be activating. So essentially, we're turning mobile equipment data into information so that mines can increase their profitability and reduce their greenhouse gas emissions at the same time. And these are not just things that we're saying we're doing. These are things that our pilot customers are actually agreeing with. So these are a few of the things they actually said. This is unlocking value. This helps us find the needle in the haystack. And the screenshot that you see on the left there is just one example showing us highlighting a turbocharger issue 20 days before that component actually failed. And here are just a few more of the examples of the results that we've seen in real time across 4 regions and commodities. We've seen indications of engine failures up to 1.5 months in advance. We saw root causes of final drive failures that were costing $2.8 million a year across a fleet of 42 haul trucks. And we rapidly revealed a fleet-wide inefficiency that had gone undetected for multiple years by both the site maintenance team and the equipment dealers. in a post-pilot value assessment with our Quebec customer, they confirmed that given what they saw from running our system for 2 months on 10 trucks, they expect to capture upwards of 10 million American dollars per year in value for that site once we're deployed across their entire fleet. And this is actually a very conservative estimate. It's not taking into account all of the different ways that we can provide value. Our preliminary ROI calculations for the Brazilian site are even a little bit higher. Those are closer to 17 million per year, and that's for a fleet of 34. And it's our approach that enables those results. So what makes Rithmic different is that we provide highly accurate results in a way that is also scalable. So we have a proprietary infrastructure that tunes our machine learning models to each unique context in less than a week, with as little as 1 month's worth of historical data. And that's how we handle the massive variability both within and across mines. And then the system can then monitor differences from what is normal, significant differences, that is, not in any generic way, but what is normal for that site. So we're then able to alarm on equipment issues much earlier while minimizing false positives so that our customers can actually trust the information enough to take action on it. And the action is, of course, where the ROI actually comes from. So for all of this, we are not adding any of our own hardware. We're tapping into the mine's database and leveraging whatever equipment data they are already gathering. Everything I've just described already exists. And as I mentioned a few slides ago, we have already proven it in 4 regions and commodities. There is still a bit of human judgment involved in order to interpret those failure mode signatures. And many of our customers do have the ability to do that in-house. For the ones that don't, we provide that as a service. And what MICA is helping to fund is the automation of that more explicitly prescriptive layer. So that way, even someone who knows nothing about the equipment can easily see, for example, that an alternator is going to fail in 20 days. And the critical piece here is that the system will be giving those prescriptions without compromising on that all-important accuracy that I spoke about earlier. The opportunity being, of course, not just financial. Our measured pilot results indicate that we can expect to decrease fuel consumption by about 3.7 million liters for a single average size mine per year. And that's with our existing functionality. It translates to about 10,000 tons of CO2 reductions per site per year. And there's a reason that we can do all of that. It is our team, which combines data science and product development expertise with several decades of experience in mines. And that's why we can lower greenhouse gas emissions while increasing profitability. And we are super grateful to the MICA network for helping us take that even further. So I've left quite a bit of time for questions here because I often find that tends to be the most fruitful part of these sorts of events. And I'm really happy to do my best to answer anything that you want to throw at me at this point, Charles or Linessa.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your presentation. You know what, I mean, whenever I listen to company owners speak to their technology and where they're going with it, it just adds that extra layer of clarity for me as to where exactly you're going. And I think the people who are going to watch your video here are going to get a better understanding exactly where your company is going. So my question is about, first of all, let me just say, I think the cost of failure is hardly understood by most people. And also the impact of the failure, especially downstream, is something that I think people don't really think about sometimes. But my question is about scale of application. Is there a minimum number of assets a company needs to have in order for them to use your system? Or are you sort of open to one-track systems?
I mean, typically we would want a minimum of 10, I think. But most mines that we've been talking to have at least that, so.
Gotcha. All right. Finally, over to Lanissa, maybe I'll ask one more question is, when you are looking at speaking to a mining site or mine operator, is there anybody in particular that you want to target to speak to? Is there a person in maintenance, is it logistics, is it a mine manager? Maybe just bring some clarity as to who exactly is it that you think would be the best person to speak to about your solution at an operation.
I mean, There are a lot of people that this touches ultimately. So when we're having a sales conversation, typically we'll have conversations with everyone from the maintenance manager to the mine manager to reliability engineers, sometimes maintenance personnel. If they have condition monitoring analysts, we would be wanting to talk to those people because they would often be some of our users. Technology teams, internal technology teams, IIT. There are a number of stakeholders involved in the conversation, but the maintenance manager would probably be the one who would be the most interested, at least initially, because those would be the KPIs that would be kind of most obviously impacted.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. All right, so I'm going to hand over to Lanissa to ask some questions as well. Lanissa, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. Those were good. Those were good slides, and it was nice and easy to understand. Can you give us some more detail on some of the results that you mentioned? Some work in Zambia.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the results that I really like to talk about is well, I'll just pull up the slide here. So in this case, this is a Quebec one, actually, and then I can speak to the Zambia one because I don't have a slide for that. But this one shows an oil restriction issue that we saw with a customer in Quebec. So in this case, between a couple of fuel and lube events, there was a full restriction of the oil filter. So the oil actually ended up getting bypassed. It ended up bypassing the filter completely. And then the implication there, of course, being some pretty significant engine damage. So you're able to pick that out, and even there were no other indicators of that particular problem. We were also able to pick out problems with the data itself, and you can see that there's a failed sensor showing up on here. In this case, that company didn't see that was happening either, and when you have failed sensors, that can implicate not just the integrity of the information, but also things like safety. If you're having those sensors feed into things like collision avoidance systems, for example. So the example that I think you're thinking of that I spoke about earlier was that fleet-wide inefficiency. So what was happening there was basically 76% of the temperature regulators were failing open across this mine's entire fleet of cat trucks. And this had been happening for several years and had been completely missed both by the site maintenance team and the equipment dealers. And it was costing them just shy of $700,000 per year, and actually having real implications for fuel burn and the efficiency of the engines. It was causing them to emit almost 2,000 extra tons of CO2 per year just for that one issue. And we found it within a couple of weeks of getting started with them. So that was a nice thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks. That's awesome. And then what does the delivery of insights actually look like? Is this image that I'm seeing now is what the clients would see?
It could be. So what it actually looks like really depends on what fits best with our customers' overall maintenance workflow. We know that really the last thing a lot of people want to see is yet another screen. If they already have some reporting tools in place that they would like us to integrate with, that's definitely something that we can do. And we can also just send emails or text messages, and we can provide dashboards if that's something that they want. But the answer to how we deliver our insights really depends on what is going to make that information the most easily actionable for that customer.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Amanda, my next question comes from having spoken to mining companies about the cost to implement a solution. And my question is, what is the speed to install the solution that you have? And also, maybe as a follow-up question, are there any cost components to the installation that are on the client side that are not necessarily like your burden, but what are on the client side? So again, speed to install the solution, and also what are the expectations for the client cost side?
Yeah, for sure. So we would be targeting customers who already have some kind of data collection solution in place. And there are a number of those on the market. There's CAT Product Link Elite, Wenco ReadyLine, Symboticware, Honeywell Mobile Equipment Monitor. There's a bunch. But they would need to have some system in place to aggregate the sensor data from their equipment and send it to a database so that we could then tap into that database and analyze the data. So we're not doing anything on the hardware side. That hardware already needs to be in place. Most of our target customers already have that. So it's not an additional thing that they would need to put in place, but if they don't have it, then that's something that they would need.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of speed to implement the solution, so tailoring our models to the customer can be done very, very quickly within less than a week. Aside from that, we just need to set up the real-time data pipelines, both within, to the customer and from the customer. So that, another couple weeks. And then aside from that, it's going to depend on the extent of the integrations that they're going to want. That's kind of hard to say, but to set up for a pilot, if we're just providing some of our, or if we're just providing some of our kind of dashboards that we already have made, it can be done in less than a month.
Okay, well, that's pretty fast. Great. Next question I have for you is concerning other industries. One of the things that we're doing with the MICA network is we like to cross over to other sectors of the industry with made for mining technologies. And, I couldn't help but, just observe that the vehicles that you're sort of monitoring, they could literally be on the highway as well. So can you maybe just comment on that cross-sector piece and your technology?
Yeah, so our technology is very transferable to similar problems in other industries, and there are a number of other industries that have issues with their mobile equipment, aerospace, construction, shipping, there's a bunch. So ultimately, we will be wanting to explore some of those avenues. Right now, we are really focused on mining because that's the core area of expertise of our team, and we don't want to dilute our focus too much. But we are really looking forward to getting into space one day. And we know from the MICA event that there will be mining. Well, we knew this already, but it was confirmed at the MICA event that there will be mining on the moon, and we do hope to be there.
Exactly. At the moment you mentioned space, my eyes just lighted up, right? But certainly, there is those crossover technologies that can make it into the space resources. And we'll be getting in touch with you about that actually, because we are doing a technology project with the CSA, which actually brings you into this conversation. The other question I have is, look, the trend right now is automation, electrification, right? So could you comment on how, if you're doing any trials with electric equipment, because they do kind of offer a very different dynamic for how the equipment, people tell me that electric equipment needs less maintenance. I don't even know how true that is, but maybe can you shed some light on that, please?
Yeah, we haven't yet done any trials on, solely electric equipment. There's no reason why our system wouldn't work on that equipment, and we'd love to try it out. The other part of your question was automation. So definitely with autonomous vehicles, we see probably an increased need for a solution like this, because now you don't have an operator on the vehicle to tell you, when something feels funny or smells funny or something's on fire or whatever. Sometimes it's the operator who ultimately reports a pretty serious issue on a piece of equipment. And if you don't have operators anymore, it becomes all the more important to make sure that you've got a system in place to find things.
Okay, cool. Okay.
I have just one more question, Amanda. Does Rhythmic only deal with maintenance, or do you see other things on the operations side as well coming up?
Yeah, actually. So, and I have a slide that I can share on that in my appendix here. I'll just pull that up. So we actually can drive value in 4 areas, all of these feeding into the reduction of fuel burn and greenhouse gas emissions. I talk a lot about the early and new indicators of issues just because that's kind of been the focus of our development. But a side benefit of that has been that, we've been seeing a lot of problematic operator behaviors, shall I say. And being able to pull that out provides a lot of opportunities for correcting those behaviors via training or other methods to improve not just the condition of the equipment, but also its efficiency and utilization. And then we're also seeing being able to pull things road conditions and mine design. So understanding where we can make improvements there to, again, not just improve the condition of the equipment, but also decrease haul cycle times. So need to kind of work a little bit of that more into our messaging, I think.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I think we've kind of reached 3 o'clock now. Amanda, thank you so much for the presentation and thank you for answering the questions. What I'd like to do now is offer you a chance to just maybe say some parting words to the industry on, some of your thoughts and maybe even re-emphasize what your need is exactly from the industry. And then when you're done, I can then close off the webinar. But please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I had a request from the industry, it would just be to, don't be afraid to try things, because, the more you try, the more you're going to learn. Often people want to wait until, they've seen someone else in their commodity do something or someone else in their area. And there are a lot of benefits to be had actually from being first. I think that's a key message. You can have an impact on how technologies are developed, and make sure that they're developed in a way that really works for you. So that would be my key message, I think, is if there's something that interests you that you want to try, just go for it, see what happens.
Yeah, thank you for that message, Amanda. And I think, we've accused our industry of first to be second for too long. And I think that is changing. And I think messaging like what you're providing us here is sort of going to push that forward for sure. Again, I want to thank you for your presentation and looking forward to hearing all the good news about all the engagements that are going to happen as you roll out your technology project. Thank you so much. We'll end it here for now. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Charles. Bye.
Take care.